My name is Richard and welcome to Language Link Nẵng. This is our most recent live stream to help you improve your English skills. We want you to improve your listening skills, your speaking skills and your confidence when you're speaking English. We have already covered a lot of topics in these videos with topics such as how to write a resume or CV, how to pass an interview, and how to interact in the workplace. In these videos, we want to give you words to expand your vocabulary. So take a look at our page and check them out and give the videos a like. This week, we're looking at how to give a presentation. Let's go! We're going to talk about a lot in this week's live stream, and it's going to be a two-part live stream. So, across the two parts, we're going to talk about how to welcome your audience, how to use body language in a presentation, how to emphasize important points in your talk, how to conclude a presentation at the end, and how to handle a Q&A or question and answer session once your presentation is over. So, let's start by welcoming our audience. There are many ways we can do this. Maybe the most simple ways are good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening if your talk is at night. We don't say good night because we only use this to say goodbye in English. So if your talk is in the morning, good morning. If your talk is in the afternoon, good afternoon. And if your talk is in the evening, good evening. That's it, pretty simple. We can also just say hi everyone, or hello everyone, unless there's only one person there. We can start by saying, first of all, let me thank you for coming here today. It's a very polite way to start our presentation, by thanking everyone else. We can also say, I'm happy, or I'm delighted that so many of you could make it today. What a polite way to start a presentation, by thanking everybody else for being here. We do need to introduce ourselves. Here are some useful phrases that we can use to do that. Number one, let me introduce myself. I'm, for example, David from Samsung. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Richard from Language Link. See, that works. How about this one? As you probably know, I'm a teacher here at Language Link. I already introduced myself. One more, try this. I'm here in my function as the teacher from Language Link. Sounds very official, right? You can use this in any of your roles when you're giving a presentation. Next, we want to say what our topic is. It's the most important part of our presentation, and we want everyone to understand what they are going to hear. We can start if we have, for example, a PowerPoint screen behind us, or over here, like I've got right now. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is, for example, our topic today is how to give a presentation. So I could also say, today's topic is how to give a presentation. How about we start with something different? What I would like to present to you today is, this is another way of using our modal verbs, like would, or our contraction, like I'd, to be polite in the way we address our audience. For example, what I'd like to present to you today is how to give a presentation. Let's try one more. The subject of my presentation today is how to give a presentation. What about explaining why this topic is relevant to the people in our audience? They came here today for a reason, and we want them to know that this talk is for them. We can try some different phrases. like, my talk is particularly relevant to those of you, or to those of us, who, for example, my topic today is online software. This is particularly relevant to those of you who are in lockdown right now, for example. We can try something about today's topic. Today's topic is of particular interest to those of you who. Let's try and use it in a sentence. Maybe our topic is film, so we could say, today's topic is of particular interest to those of you who are interested in film, because our topic is the cinema, or something like that. Or vice versa. Maybe we can say, the topic is very important for you because, let's try and use an example for this. Today's topic, how to give a presentation, is very important for you because you will need the skill to improve further in your job in the future. That's just one example. How about this one? By the end of this talk, you will be familiar with. It's another phrase we can use. So, for example, we can mention what happens in our talk at exactly this point. By the end of this talk, you will be familiar with how to give a presentation, or whatever your topic of your talk is about. Don't forget, we can use words like we and us and our to highlight a common interest between everyone that's at the talk. For example, by the end of our talk, we will be familiar, or something like that. The topic is very important for us because, or this topic is of particular interest to those of us who like cinema, or something like that. Feels like we are all included, right? The final part of the introduction deals with how to organize the talk. How long will the talk last? Whether there will be handouts, those might be pieces of paper you give to your audience with more information on, and how questions will be handled, maybe during the talk, while you're giving your presentation, or at the end of the talk, when you're finished. We usually call this a Q&A. So, some people also like to know, before you start your talk, what it's going to be like. So, timing is important for those people. Some people like to mention it in their presentations. You can say things like this: my presentation will take 20 minutes, or it should take around 20 minutes to cover these issues. What a polite way to address your audience, thinking about them and what they need. There are a lot of ways to get all this information out during your talk, as well as speaking, such as, like we mentioned a moment ago, handouts, pieces of paper that may have information on about the event, or specifically about this talk. Maybe we can call it a handout, or a brochure, a French word, or report. So when we address our audience, we could say, does everybody have a report? Or does everybody have a brochure? Or do you all have a handout? We can even use we, like we did before. Do we all have a handout so far? Please take one and then pass them on. This way we don't have to go out to the audience to do it. We can tell the audience, don't worry about taking notes. I've put all the important statistics on a handout for you. Maybe the PowerPoint that we have next to us, we save the slides and print them out, so we can tell our audience, I will be handing out copies of the PowerPoint slides at the end of my talk, and then the audience know they don't have to really quickly try and write a lot of notes. We can also say something simple, like, I'll email the PowerPoint presentation to you. It's another great way to allow your audience to settle down during your talk. Then they can concentrate more on what you are saying. Questions are very important for the delegates at the event. Let's write this word down on the board. These are people who are at the event and watching you speak. This means they were chosen to be there, or they chose to be there. We can also say attendees, two plural words to describe the people at our event. We want them to be happy, and sometimes they're going to have questions for us. So how do we handle any of the questions which the delegates or attendees may have at our event during our presentation? We can say some phrases like, there will be time for questions after my presentation. Then everybody is clear on the process. For questions, they need to wait until the end. How about this? If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any time. Let's write this one on the board. Interrupt. So, while I am speaking, somebody stops me in the audience, one of the delegates, to ask a question. Maybe you want this. Maybe you want to answer their question at the time. So, if you're happy with this, you can say, feel free to interrupt me at any time. Maybe you don't want this. Maybe this isn't what you think of with your presentation and you want them to wait until the end. So you can ask our first phrase, there will be time for questions after the presentation. But if you're happy with interrupting, you can also say, feel free to ask questions at any time during my talk. This makes everyone feel relaxed. And they know if they are not understanding everything, or if something is not clear, they can stop you and ask. And it shows you are relaxed about this. Our next tips are about body language and how to present to an English-speaking audience. In the English language, some words can have more than one meaning. And the way we say them makes a big difference to the word's meaning. In fact, 55% of the meaning from our words in a presentation come from our facial expressions. And 38% comes from the way that we actually say them. Only 7% of the meaning is from the actual words that we use. Crazy, right? So this means body language is very important. Let's learn more about how body language can affect all of this. First of all, let's think about your appearance. For example, your clothes or your hair. It's very important when you are giving an important presentation to dress appropriately and have well-groomed hair. Your audience will be distracted if you are not wearing the right clothes for the event, or if you look very untidy. Smile, because when you enter the stage, or if you are being introduced, if you smile warmly, this means a real smile. Don't smile too much. You might feel nervous, but don't worry. This is when the audience is finding out what sort of person you are. So, stand up, stay calm, and smile again. Don't lean on the podium, or the table, on the board, when you're giving a presentation. This can suggest to your audience that you are weak or nervous. It's also considered rude in some English-speaking countries to point your finger at the audience or a certain member of the audience. Any of the delegates or attendees might be affected by this. So if you want to use your hands to do some pointing, try showing your open palms with your hands spread wide. This is a really positive gesture and is acceptable in most cultures. How else can we use body language to give a great presentation? Well, using occasional arm movements can show the important points in your talk. If you wave your arms around all the time, you're going to distract your audience from the real communication. A little arm movement can be useful in showing something important. Look at your audience. Make eye contact with everybody in the room. Don't look at only one person all the time. Look at them all individually, as though you are talking to that person personally, as an individual. Would you buy a car from a car salesman who didn't look at you when they were talking to you? Spread your eyes around. Stay relaxed and they will continue to look at you. Another tip we have for you is don't walk around too much. It might feel better, especially if you're nervous, to walk up and down the stage. But it can be distracting for your audience. It's best to walk a little, change your position sometimes, maybe to make an important point, or just to add some variety to your presentation. It's also really important to use your head when you're making a presentation, especially in English-speaking cultures. Movements of the head and expressions on the face can help you to express yourself in the presentation and make your point. It can also help people feel engaged with what you are saying. In English-speaking cultures, when we make a negative point, we often shake our head from side to side. But when we make a positive point, we usually nod our head up and down. Or you can raise your eyebrows for a certain point that might be surprising. You can also remove your glasses for special effect. Using some specific verbs can be helpful when giving a presentation in English. For example, let's write some on the board. Stress. Usually, maybe you think this has negative meaning. It can also mean about strength. So we can say, I would like to stress the next point. Or, I would like to stress about our company's figures for this month. This just means we want to give it more importance in this talk. The next one we can use is draw. For example, I would like to draw your attention to the latest figures. Doesn't mean we're going to draw a picture of the latest figures. Draw can also mean pull the attention in from all of our audience to this thing we are talking about. I would like to draw your attention to these verbs on the board. There we go. We drew the attention, we used some hand movements, and we changed our facial expression. Another verb we can use to improve our presentations in English and keep everybody engaged with our speech is emphasize. Well, this is kind of similar to stress, that we want to make it really strong, our point. So, I really want to emphasize that these verbs are very important. Or, I would like to emphasize that our market performance last month was excellent. Also, controlling your voice is a very helpful thing to learn when giving presentations in English. Speak slowly and clearly. To make something sound special, go even more slowly. Really, go even more slowly. Repeating a sentence can also work if you have a really important point. That's right, repeating a sentence. Okay, we did it already. You can also say the same thing again in a different way. Let your voice go up. Let your voice go down when you go slowly. Speaking loudly and quietly. These dynamics can keep a listener interested in your talk. And sometimes you can just stop speaking completely. Say nothing for a short time. A silent pause is a very powerful way of communicating. It gives the listeners, the delegates, the attendees, time to think about what you are saying, and usually they think back to the last sentence you said. So, when you say something really important, slow down. If you want, let your voice go low. And then, stop. It's a good technique. Okay, so this is the end of the first part of our live stream about how to give a presentation in English. Thank you very much for joining us today and tuning in to our Listen, Speak and Roar live stream about interacting in the workplace and learning extra skills in English. We hope to see you next week for the next part of this live stream. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.